The Wild Wild West.
All right.
Yes.
This is it.
Oh, we're on.
We're doing another history podcast. This time we've got the Colin Quinn.
Yes.
And today's topic is Vietnam.
Vietnam.
What a time.
Yeah. What a crazy time.
Hey.
I mean, in some ways, I feel like it's the most important. It changed everything. Plus, it was at that time, you know?
Yeah.
But it changed. I always feel like these things have like bigger, like what comes first? Vietnam makes people, was it a revolution where everybody's like, we're fighting against the system, or was Vietnam the thing that triggers it off? And would it have happened without Vietnam? Would the 60s have happened without Vietnam?
Yeah.
Because Vietnam, as you know, I'm bragging about my extensive knowledge, started for America in the 40s.
Yeah.
And it was because we were helping France, because we owed France from the Revolutionary War.
The thing I've looked into, dude, France dragged us into this to the point
I had
that's
no idea.
like, France owned Vietnam.
Mhm.
It was a colony. Japan took it when they got a little wild.
Yeah.
And then the United States liberated it.
Okay.
And that was the thing. Ho Chi Minh, the guy who ended up being the leader of the Viet Cong, was like, I love America.
That's
he was
right.
Like, he was
That's right.
He was writing letters to Truman.
That's
saying
right.
like, I love you. Thank you. They were like, Americans are the only free people on earth.
Yes.
These are incredible people. The leader of them loved America.
Yeah.
And then he started, this is the craziest part. So France goes back in after the war and is like, we're taking it back. And America was like, don't do that.
Yeah.
And we were kind of siding with Ho Chi Minh and the Vietnamese. And then France was like, this is the beginning of the Cold War. So France is like, hey, if you guys don't support us, maybe we'll start listening to fucking Russia. And then America was like, all right, we'll fucking help you out.
Damn.
Anyway.
That is interesting. And by the way, speaking of Ho Chi Minh writing letters to Truman, all those letters were redacted and till like 1970 something.
And half of them Truman never got because the Secret Service was like,
wow,
he doesn't need to see these. Yeah.
Yeah, making those decisions.
It's almost
in
like
those days, everybody made, but that's the whole thing about Vietnam too. Everybody's making their own decisions, determining. So the when you have power, you know, when you disperse power in that way, everybody goes, I'll take this part. And they're all just like,
and because of the Cold War, the Secret Service and the CIA were like, this is more important. Like the CIA versus the KGB in Russia and the Soviet Union, that became the two superpowers.
Yeah.
And they were doing stuff like undermining the fucking president to be like, the war against Russia is more. I mean, I don't like Vietnam because of how frustrating and stupid it is.
Well, but first of all, the CIA, when you think about it, their whole thing was the Cold War first. So all the drug dealing that happened in the 70s and 80s was again from every cartel. The CIA, when they're like, okay, CIA, they would stop the DEA from doing their job all the time because they're like, the Cold War, these are anti-communists, but they're the heads of the cartels, but they're anti-communists, and that was their priority. So they made that choice, and I'm sure the president didn't want to make the choice, whoever it was during all those times, but that was the choice they always made.
Damn, then they did the Just Say No like 10 years later. And like, come on, guys, don't do drugs.
Just say no. But even Just Say No,
so
they were still telling the DEA, back off this guy, back off that guy.
It's so funny.
Because they were saying, look, we think communism is a greater threat. Still in the late 80s. It's crazy.
They were right. We got a tiny taste of it here, and it's pretty annoying.
Communism does fucking blow.
Good point.
Especially when the communists are rich and like 30 years old.
And getting DUIs. You see Nancy Pelosi's husband? He's 82 and caught a DUI. Anyway.
Well, I think somebody 82 catching a DUI, I admire that.
I do too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That should be free. That should be like, let you go on that.
All right. We're getting off topic. So,
True.
Yeah.
Vietnam, the French. The French are fucking dickheads.
Dude. Brutal.
They were dickheads.
So they dragged us in. They
absolutely dragged us in.
Hid the letters.
They dragged us in, but we wanted into. I mean, we could have left. We could have left 10. We could have left. I mean, I read this book, A Bright Shining Light. I just happened to be reading it. By the way, whenever you read a book, especially on Kindle, try to find out how many pages it is. First.
Oh, yeah.
This book's 800 pages. Fuck. So I was reading it like, this is A Bright Shining Light. Doesn't sound like a long book.
Yeah.
It's the history of everything. But France, they left. We helped them. So there was what turned Ho Chi Minh. One of the things that turned him is we supplied France with all these all the mortars and everything where they destroyed a lot of it in Vietnam, and that turned them against America too. Ho Chi Minh,
it was there was a battle. I forget the name of it. So I was just watching the Ken Burns on it. What is it?
Dien Bien Phu.
Yes. So the French were kind of fucking up the Vietnamese. I mean, it was the same as us versus them. They had superior firepower, but again, just like time and time again, the Vietnamese were very good at guerrilla warfare because we trained them during World War II.
Oh yeah,
yeah, a little fucking Mujahideen type shit.
Yeah,
and they were about to come to talks. France and Vietnam, they were about to come to the table. Before they went to have talks, they both tried to get one more offensive in, so they had leverage when they went to talks.
Nice.
So France sets up at what's it,
Bien Phu, yeah.
They just put themselves at the bottom of this valley, and they're like, "We're just going to build an airfield here. We're going to fuck them up." One of the French generals was like, "I have too many guns. We're going to fuck these dudes up."
Damn.
And the Vietnamese surrounded them in this valley and just destroyed them. The French guy, the general that led that, killed himself honorably because he was like, "We're going to wipe the floor with these guys."
Why'd they go in a valley? Isn't that a bad? I'm not a military tactician, but isn't that like not the good idea?
Yeah, it was a bad idea.
Well, it's funny you say that because even Khe Sanh, the famous 14 years later, America did the same thing. Set themselves up was surrounded by all the mountains. So created a valley and set up an airstrip, a landing strip in the valley, and got killed because of it.
Damn.
I mean, it's really amazing. I mean, the other thing about Vietnam is you realize how you always think when you're young, at least, like the people in charge, they spend all their time doing this. They know what they're doing. But there were so many egos involved that the few people who were like, "This is not working," they were just like, "Stop.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're saying." Just because of ego. People think, their motive was they wanted money. They would still get the money. This was about like something else, a power struggle where you pay the price or the troops pay the price.
Oh, it sucks. Yeah, if you're just some dude sitting in a village and some guy had an argument and you're just getting blown up and you're like, what the fuck is this about?
And the other thing
some guy couldn't come to grips with it. He was like, no, fuck it, I'm right.
In the early 60s, they had this Hamlet program where they said, we're going to bring all these weapons to each hamlet, all these little hamlets, because it was kind of half and half, like North Korea. And they brought all these weapons to all these hamlets and said, look, you're in charge of the weapons. And it was all American-made modern stuff. And of course, the Viet Cong, who kind of controlled more or less, they had the hearts of the people. They took all the weapons. So we supplied the Viet Cong with all these weapons in the early 60s, and it kept them going.
It genuinely makes me like all my information's from the Ken Burns documentary,
right?
And I watch it, and every time I'm watching it, by episode 2, I'm like, "What the fuck is going?" Like it doesn't make sense.
Well, I don't know if this was in the Ken Burns documentary, but did you see the guy? It is. I think it is. I saw the Ken Burns. Is Beckwith with the guy and an advisor, Colonel Beckwith?
Oh yeah,
Sergeant Charlie Beckwith. And he goes, they interview him and he go, what do you think of the Viet Cong? He goes, finest soldiers I've ever seen. This is in 1965. Yeah.
What?
He goes, what? The Viet Cong. He goes, best soldiers I wish I had 200 of them under my command. And right away, you're like, oh, we should have realized something was up then.
Well, they'd been fighting for 30 years. These dudes have been fighting since like World War II. They didn't stop fighting.
Really?
From World War II until the end of Vietnam, they were fighting constantly.
And their home territory.
Yeah.
And they're so small, they had to be crafty. All the tunnels, all the trails, they know everything.
Oh, fuck, yeah.
You know?
Was that the first American war where like the American troops were like, what the fuck's going, what's the point of this? The first
I think
time
Korea,
like,
I'm sure they were a little bit like, actually.
Yeah, Korea, MacArthur screwed up Korea.
Yeah.
MacArthur, everybody was like, don't do this. MacArthur's like, the people loved him.
Yeah.
The Korean people like, this guy's our savior. And he just was like a king over there.
Yeah.
And then he just said, we're going to do it this way. I forget, he landed on the coast. So he did something that was strategically a nightmare. And even his generals were like, don't do this. What are you doing? And he goes, I know what I'm doing. And
that guy, he had a fucking ego, dude.
That stinks.
He referred to himself in the third person.
Did he?
Was fucking nuts. Yeah, he was wild. MacArthur was wild.
That sucks.
He might get a bad rap, though. I kind of like him.
Yeah, no, he was beloved. Look, the people loved him because Japan loved it because after World War II, they were expecting, because they were so horrendous during World War II, they expected him to really bear down, and he treated them like, he said, you treat these people like human beings. So Japanese people treat him like a god. So he felt like a god.
That's tough to shake off. That would get me.
Yeah.
If I was getting like samurai glory, I'd be like, yeah, you know what?
I know. Even
Dude,
if
like presenting you swords and
You
shit.
get to wear
I'd
one
be
of those
like,
cool
I guess I am.
suits. If I get to wear one of those cool suits, I'm like, who do I? I'll slash
I think
away.
that's why God never even let me sell out like the Beacon or something like that. He keeps me at a level of 300 to 400 seats on the road, and there's a reason for it.
Oh man.
So what was it? So chronologically, the French so we were like boys.
So it's
with
a
them.
French colony. Then there's World War II.
Yeah.
Japan takes over, and like always when Japan would invade, all the Asian countries were like, nice, finally the fucking white colonists are gone.
Yeah.
We're gonna get treated well, and they immediately get starved to death and beheaded and fucked with.
It sucks.
So then when the Americans liberated Vietnam, and the British, whoever, they were like, fuck yeah, we love America. Then France after World War II, who just got their fucking ass whooped.
Yeah.
They're like, actually, we want those colonies back.
Nice.
Yeah.
And, and Vietnam was like, no, this is ours now.
Yeah.
We're independent again. So then
Did they have to write a letter to Vietnam like, hey, buddy,
we're coming back.
bad news?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, sorry. We should start chronologically.
Yeah.
Let you.
What
all I
year?
watch is fucking Ken Burns.
What? Oh, what are we talking about? Well,
I
yeah,
don't know. Whatever you want.
what you said. And then, so then France, when they lost, you know what I mean? The Geneva talks, I think it was the first Geneva talk back then, maybe not. But then,
That was the best one.
was that
That was
probably
the best one. First team was
we
the
were like,
best.
hey, I like Geneva. And then we went in. Eisenhower said, we're just going to arm them in the 50s, We're just going to keep arming them because we don't want communism to spread down there. And then, because China, they were about China taking over Vietnam. But Vietnam wasn't worried because they were half communist. Like you said, by that point, Ho Chi Minh was pro-American until that horrible event where the France destroyed like all these innocent villages, and then he turned on America because we supplied France. They didn't have
Fair enough.
In Bien Dien Phu,
Bien Bien Phu is when they got cocky.
America started supplying France because the only way the French could get anything was airdrops.
Yeah.
Because they were in a fucking valley getting destroyed. Like 8,000 French dudes died.
Jesus.
Again, though, the Vietnamese lost like 3-1 casualties, but they were like, that's a victory.
Yeah. That's
They
what
would get fucking wiped out constantly.
Yeah. What was that one quote? Like, all we have to do is just stay here and just die.
I mean, yeah.
That was one of the Vietnamese soldiers. Like, all we have to do is just not become extinct, and we win. And I was like,
It's great.
yeah, that's tough.
Well, that's
That
the
sucks.
problem with everything, right? I mean, anytime you go anywhere, the people that live there, they have nowhere to go.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, you're trapped. A trapped rat is going to fight to the death.
Yeah.
But
So
then, yeah.
it got to the point where they're talking about like the United States was literally funding 80% of the French versus Vietnamese war. We were giving France 80% of the budget to
Damn.
win the war. Yeah.
Yeah.
France sucks.
France did a bad job, and then they left, and then we decided it's such a weird. I look at it so like psychologically, like what I understand about the domino theory was part of it, but
Yeah.
the psychological mindset you put yourself into. There was this guy Harkins, the general. He was the guy that ran it. He is really responsible in many ways because we go back and tell the president and these guys it's going good, but even then, the presidents, the ambassadors, they all went along. It just goes to show. I mean, I quote my mother all the time. I rest her soul, but she used to always say, "People," and I see this deeper and deeper in everything. And this is a perfect example. People are attracted to bullshit, and if you offer them something that's quality or truthful and bullshit, they go for the bullshit every time. And I said to my mother at the time, I go, "That's true most of the time." She goes, "I didn't say most of the time. I said every time." And Vietnam's a perfect example because he was this guy Van. This whole book, Bright Shine Lies, about this guy Van. It was in Vietnam he was the early guy, and he's like, "Look, we're gonna lose. Here's what's happening. The Hamlets, we're giving away our guns. The communists are taking. We're bombing village. We were search and destroy in 1963."
Jesus.
And he goes, "We're losing everybody. We got to either win them over through like social revolution, the corruption of the South Vietnamese. They're taking everything. Their special forces that we trained are destroying people. This is terrible. We're losing." And everybody, even the people that kind of knew better, just went like, "Oh." And then somebody was like, "No, we're just going to do this." And they're like, "Okay, let's do that." And it wasn't that it was easier. and they almost like will themselves into like, if you ever been involved in like a TV or movie project, right? And everyone's sitting there and you start out going, it's got to be this. And then slowly you start to go, oh yeah, no that. And then somebody that wasn't involved in the first month walks in and goes, are you guys all gone crazy? And yes, you have. And
no
that's
one
what
wants
I
to
feel
say
like.
it sucks. They're like, no, this is good.
You start to believe it.
Yeah.
You get in this stupor. And that's what I think happened in Vietnam with our military.
I mean,
You're on the set of Aquaman 6 and you're like, this still's good.
This might be the best picture.
And you ever go to a screening of a movie?
No.
And then I've gone to screenings of movies and you'll sit there and be like, that movie was really good. If you're around the movie,
Sure,
and
yeah.
you know the cast, you know in front of people, you're like, it was good, it was bad. And then if I've been with people that go, are you crazy? That was shit. And then later I'm like, I was in a state of temporary insanity. And I feel like that's what happened. For
Also,
years.
the domino effect bothers me. It just annoys me.
You don't
It's
like dominoes?
Obviously,
You don't like-
Obviously, I crush dominoes.
No, you don't. I'll tell you, you don't like. You don't like that slippery slope theory. That's basically the domino effect,
Yeah.
right? I agree. I don't
When
like
it
it.
when it comes to why we were in Vietnam,
Yeah.
was they were like, well, if China's influence and the Soviet influence gets Vietnam, they're going to get all of Southeast Asia, and
Yeah.
it's like, so
Well, but at the time, Russia had just taken all of Eastern Europe in the early 50s. So, in the grand scheme of things, considering how people felt at that time,
I know they were scared of it, but it's
I mean, it wasn't like just some crazy. It was like, wait, they just took Czechoslovakia, Hungary, all these places.
yeah.
They're moving. Everybody in Europe is on the same page. Everybody's like post World War II, and they're like, oh, they're gonna move because everybody knew even in World War II. Remember what Patton was like? We should go right into Russia.
Yeah.
Patton, by the way, an enemy of my family.
Really?
One of my uncles was 19 years old, World War II, captured by the Germans, POW camp for a year. German POW camp, 90 pounds. He's 19 years old. Maybe he's 20 by now. He's in the hospital when they finally release him. Patton's visiting all the wounded troops. Then he gets to the POWs. They go, do you want to, these are all the POWs. He goes, I don't talk to cowards. Patton says, he goes, I don't talk to cowards. You're supposed to die with your unit. I don't believe in POWs. So my uncle hated Patton. Every film we get together, people like, especially when the movie Patton came out, it was like, hey, George, you're going to go see the Patton movie? And he's like, his name was George too. And he's like, beat it, you know.
Damn, you went and just snubbed the POWs?
He literally goes, he called them cowards.
Yeah.
My uncle's like 90 pounds. He's 19, 20 years old. He's
I
going
mean,
like,
one of the opening scenes in
Oh.
Patton is when he's slapping a guy in the hospital.
oh, yeah,
He's
that's
slapping
right.
him, calling him a fucking
For
coward
PTSD,
in the
that's
hospital.
right. That's right, the
Yeah.
PTSD guy.
Jesus Christ.
All right.
Yeah, that's what a jerk. So,
Yeah, where are we at?
We're saying,
We got.
we're saying that you don't believe in the domino theory.
I mean, I understand at the time there's a hysteria. It's the same reason we fucking went into Iraq. We were like,
Yeah.
they're trying to kill us. They hate our
Right.
freedom.
they do.
And after fucking 15, 20 years, we're like, what the fuck was that?
Right. There was no weapons.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know.
Well, I remember that remember the book I was talking about, the George Friedman book, where it was the next 100 years and they predicted all that stuff? Remember like 2 weeks before Russia invaded Ukraine?
Yeah.
He was saying that U.S. is so far and ahead of everybody, like economically, militarily, that all they're trying to do is break up every alliance that forms.
Yeah.
So it's like it's not about winning wars, it's about just destabilizing.
But at this point, Russia was,
they're gaining. They're
they
creeping.
were pretty fucking powerful. They just got the nuke.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden
But
it was,
by the way, to that end, I think it was Ellsberg, the guy with the Pentagon Papers, which was a big thing. But when one of these guys was looking into the Russia thing in 1960, he was working with a nuclear, and he said it was shocking because they were like Russian. They were nowhere in the same ballpark with us. They had nothing compared to us.
Really?
And the military just had this, narrative in their head like Russia and us. And they were just child's play compared to us at the time, 58, 59, something like that. I think that was Ellsberg, Pentagon Papers, but I'm not sure. But something like that. But yeah, that was the other side of it.
Damn, so
we're
even that
fighting
was
here,
bullshit.
But they did take all those countries. I mean, that was
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
yeah,
know?
but all those countries are fucking shit.
Well, were they shit
Eastern
because
Europe
of
and
that, though?
Southeast Asia.
But were
Who
they?
gives a fuck?
But were they shit then, or were they shit?
Because of
Because people say the same thing about any colony,
Yeah, like you're talking like Macedonia, Bulgaria.
And how important?
They were the shit back in like.
But this brings up the
1400
question
BC.
about capitalism versus communism. How important is free will? That's the question. So I don't know. You know what I mean? I mean, that's what this whole thing is about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, or I think it's human organization schemes. Aren't there people at the top of communism who live like very well and kind of rule still anyway?
Yeah, that's what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's just kind of like a, which one do you want, peasants? It's like you get to compete and have fun, or it's like, or you share. And it's, you know.
Right. Yeah.
But
I mean, obviously, I like capitalism.
Communism.
I like the idea of capitalism.
The what?
Capitalism, I mean, obviously, it's when it's unfettered, it's not going to work. But the idea of capitalism I like because it appeals to humans' nature's greedy side, which I feel like anytime you appeal to people based on something that's not so innocent, that's probably the healthy way to go because that's how people's nature is.
It's not repressed.
But if it goes too, obviously, you can't have people just, doing whatever they want. That's a problem.
Just going into space.
What's that? Yeah.
Just guys just launching themselves into space.
I mean, the results are in. So far, it's one in terms
Capitalism?
of like remaining a thing in the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's one. It's one.
And yeah.
It's winning.
And communism has to try harder to keep people from giving their opinion. So that means it's not a good system.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it doesn't work very well. We're dancing with that a little bit.
Yeah.
Not being able to say stuff. So
Oh, absolutely.
we'll see. Maybe that'll go well. Who knows? Maybe the whole thing will just collapse and we'll all fucking die.
Well,
I just wish my eye would stop watering right now.
Why? Why's your eye watering?
I think I had hot sauce this morning. I rubbed it right in my eye. But go on. Sorry.
That's
don't mind
crazy.
me.
This is your Vietnam.
This is, man. I'm suffering right now. It's my Ho Chi Minh.
One time I was out with a girl years ago, and you have to say years ago whenever you're married, but it was years ago. But I had some kind of a sauce. Here's what I realized, by the way. I had some. It was like a pepper flake, a garlic and oil, but really hot sauce. So I go to pee. So you don't wash your hands before you pee. You wash them after. Not anymore. So anyway, I pee. I wash my hands, and I realize my dick is on fire.
Oh.
And I'm sitting there with her and I'm talking. I'm going, and finally I had to just tell her what was going on.
My
I
dick's
just
on
walked
fire.
back to the bathroom and just splashed myself with water. But isn't it weird? You don't wash your hands before you hold your dick, which is when you should.
I would say,
Of course.
yeah, definitely. I don't
And
wash my
after,
hands after.
really,
Of course.
Ever.
But it's after is more.
I just
saying-
never
yeah.
do.
Never.
What's that now?
I just never wash my hands.
Never either way.
No.
I smell my hands. If I take a dump, I smell them. If they smell, I'll wash them. If I emerge clean, I'm like,
Damn, your eye is fucked.
dude, my eye's
up.
fucked up. I don't know what's going on. I got something in it.
You got Bieber, dude.
I might have fucking. What does he have?
Oh,
Hunter?
no. You have a.
He has Hunter Biden syndrome or something.
No, what if you have that stupid other thing? What's it called?
Whatever Bieber got. The fucking.
Oh, no. The eye thing.
He got the Joker face.
What's it
No.
called?
What's the eye thing?
Pink
Justin
eye,
Bieber.
yeah.
Justin Bieber.
Is that
oh,
what you
yeah.
were looking for? Was pink eye?
Yes.
This guy's got
There's
all the answers.
Conjunctivitis.
Conjunctivitis. You're
Yes.
looking for the medical term. All right,
But I'll take pink eye.
Vietnam.
Ah, it's fine now.
What the fuck happened? What happened?
Vietnam?
Yes.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It was. Well, I said it was a weird narcotic state where it's been kind of a thing after World War II. It's gone now, but where we're like, no, we don't really fail. Everybody wants this because it works so well. Not just World War II, the Marshall Plan even worked because we're dealing with all these countries and suddenly they're coming back. By 1960s, 50s, Germany's even back. So we're like the benign guys that we control things, but everybody's kind of like getting their thing who wants to be on the team. And then, we didn't realize there was a whole undercurrent. So like the overcurrent is Europe, then the undercurrent is the colonies. So all the colonies were rebelling starting in the late 50s.
Oh yeah.
From Africa to, South America. And so there was that whole thing going on,
The vacay spots were popping
There was so
off.
much going on. Isn't it weird?
All the sandals.
The Sandals Resorts.
All the sandals resorts where they've had it up to here.
Yeah.
That makes
So
sense.
it was kind of a weird, it was an interesting time. if
I
you
can
really
see
think about it.
communism appealing to that.
Yeah.
You're down
Of
up here.
You
course.
gotta share the fucking daiquiris.
Pissing
dude.
around the cheese.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, like Cuba, look at Cuba with the whole mafia thing, and it was such an interesting thing where it was like, they letting all these capitalist things, and then they were like, no, and Castro came in, and you know what I mean? Even though Cuba failed, they didn't like the corruption level that was going on. The same thing with South Vietnam.
Yeah. That was the thing. We propped up some fucking dumbass.
We propped up a dumbass.
And we would never get rid of it. And then as soon as you saw that part, we were watching it.
Yeah.
We propped up this dude who just immediately started persecuting the Buddhists.
Absolutely.
Started.
Yep.
His wife was a fucking monster who was like, good, I'm glad they're burning themselves.
Yes. His wife and
it
his
was-
brother.
Yeah, they were just morons.
Yeah.
Yes.
and we couldn't back off because we were like, it's still better than communism.
Yep.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Ho Chi Minh was kind of fucking cool.
Right. He liked us at the beginning.
Yeah,
he
was
wasn't
like,
totally into this thing. And then
Yeah.
It's tough. It's like
but he
assistant.
became,
It's like
Yeah.
assistant manager.
Now,
energy.
did you know a lot of guys that were in Vietnam?
I knew a few. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a kid doing the whole thing, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember as a little kid, you'd watch, it was on the news every day at 5 and 6 o'clock, you'd see the footage from Vietnam. So it was like such a part. It wasn't like I was shocked because I wasn't from the generation before that. That was all I knew. I was 7, 8 years old, 9 years old. But I remember seeing footage of Vietnam all the time on TV and the news, and it was just a constant thing. And I remember one time in class, we were talking about Vietnam. This is probably 71, or maybe 70. And the teacher or the kids were going, yeah, Vietnam is bad. And this girl in our class starts screaming and crying because her brother got killed in Vietnam. And so I knew probably 3 guys, older guys, that didn't hang out with me, but I mean, I knew 3 guys that were Marines in Vietnam that got wounded, that came home, and they all had those cliche Marine personalities. I mean, Vietnam vet personality. The army jacket by themselves, the big beards when they're home, heavy drinker, heavy smoker, you know, prone to outbursts, but still good guys. Like they were guys we like, you know, they weren't like people hung out with them and talked to them, but they had that other side to them, partly from being in the war, partly from what they did, partly from what Vietnam did, and partly from their reaction when they came home. It wasn't like you walk around, people weren't going, thank you for your service either, you know.
Yikes. That stinks.
Yeah, so I knew a few guys,
Yeah, that was the thing we were talking about. O'Connor brought this up. We were talking about last night. He's like, imagine today's fucking college student. Imagine
Jesus
being
Christ.
a dude who got drafted and had to go live through fucking hell. And then you get home and one of these fuckers throws like a bag of piss at you and is like, baby killer.
Fuck you.
Like, yo.
Right. Oh my God.
That's when I would join the Ohio National Guard and I would head down to Kent State and say, fuck you guys.
Yeah, true.
That's yeah. But it was interesting that they all did have that personality.
Yeah.
Even the guys I knew, guy across the street, my friend's brother, was a Vietnam vet that didn't fight. He was a airplane mechanic, and even he was screwed up,
fucked up from it.
Yeah.
My uncle was a Marine, and he never talks about it ever. Like literally never talks about it. One night, he and I got drunk, and he opened up about it.
Really?
And it was wild. He saw a fucking Chinook get hit, and just spun. Dudes flew everywhere. I mean, it was. Now my other uncle was in Vietnam, and he is a little more. He's a little more sociopath, like psycho. That's like, I killed a guy. Yeah, and I was like, "How was that?" And it was just me and him, and he goes, "It's fucking incredible." I was like, "Yo."
I told you I knew a guy who was a sniper, and he was saying, he's like, you get addicted to the feeling of killing people. And he's like, and he was a nice dude. He's like, I didn't have like ill will towards people, but he's like, I like would watch people eat dinner, and as soon as they finish, right in the head. He's like, by like the 12th one, he's like, you get like a god complex, and you're like, I'm ending this. God done. Damn.
Yeah.
So you just watch people hang out.
The guy in Vietnam, I've told you this before. It was like a 90-degree trail, and you couldn't see around the corner. So he's walking one way, a Viet Cong was walking up the path. He said they literally bumped into each other in the jungle. And then it was just a race to see who could get who could get their gun out faster, and he got his out.
Woo!
First.
Jesus Christ!
Now he's still. I mean, and then he got fucked up. He got hit with a rocket propelled grenade. And he blew. His nipples missing, his calves off. Yeah, and he had to lay there because they're in the middle of a firefight. He had to lay there for 3 hours on the jungle floor, like, I'm dead. I'm dying for sure. Yeah. I mean, he's a hero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, and is it that different from war? Like, my father was in Korea and Korean and war, and he said the most disturbing part was, which is still chilling, that the lieutenants or the officers would nightly bring in the Korean prisoners and beat the living shit out of them, and always like, "Hey, Brooklyn, you want a piece?" And he's like, "No, thanks." And they would just like just torture the guys, just beat them for fun. So it was already starting to lose the. The glamour of World War II. And then, but Vietnam is a different. Like, I feel like this setup, even though it happened in World War II, it happens in every war. The setup of search and destroy is what fucked them all up. Because here you are, you grow up in the 50s, you're watching these movies, you have a little bit, even if you're not innocent, you know you're capable of, but you're still, and then suddenly you're in the middle of this thing where they go, no, you have to burn all these Hamlets, because like I said, the Hamlet program, the Vietnamese took over the Hamlets. So they go, and the Vietnamese are in there. And whether they are or not, they're in enough where you're like, okay, it's them or me. And so you're torturing all these peasants out of their house, torching their village,
just burning their fucking.
That's like that's the strategy.
How long did they do that for?
That's our strategy.
How long did they do
the
that
whole
for?
time?
The whole entire
from
they just went there to burn
1963.
villages down?
Yeah.
From 1963.
Jesus Christ.
And they said even, that's what Morley Safer was, the guy from 60 Minutes. I always thought, oh, this fucking annoying guy, you know. But meanwhile, he was a reporter, and they filmed in 1965 torching of a Hamlet. 1965, early in the war. And that's when everyone started protesting the Vietnam War. Because they watched on TV, they're like, wait, this is like liberating France. What's going on here? It was just all these peasants running, they're torching the house and shooting the pigs. Like that was on the national news.
Jesus.
On the evening news.
That's what you were watching?
Well, I don't remember that, but I'm saying, but people, it shocked the whole country. That's when the protests began.
Because we were the good guys. We were always the good guys.
But
we were always the good
guys.
guys.
You showing it like, check us out. Never like, boo, or like, fuck.
No, the news was like, hey.
This is crazy.
That's because the news was doing their fucking job.
True, yeah.
And they're like, here's what's actually happening.
No, right. They just shot. And Morley Safer had to leave. Like they were threatening him because they were saying he took it out of context. He didn't, which he probably
he took
did
it
too.
out of context.
Well, I'm saying they weren't saying that they'd been getting shot, like Marines had gotten shot from that village.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm saying it wasn't like, it's not just us evil and everybody else is good either. But I mean,
no, they were bad.
It was a stupid strategy.
But see, this is what happened. And it was crazy because the French had just done it before us.
Yes.
So they did this thing called pacification where they were like, they tried to do the social set. Like they were like, we're going to help build your rice paddies up. We're going to give you food. We're going to build schools. And during the day it worked. And then at night the Viet Cong would come in. Take the food, take the fucking guns,
That's right.
hide guns in the villages, hide weapons, hide soldiers. So then during the day they'd come back and they'd just keep getting supplies and they'd do raids from the villages with the weapons and shit the French gave them.
Yeah.
And then so the French would come back and be like, we know you're harboring communists.
Oh, Jesus.
And they would burn the fucking village down. Yeah. And then we did that. We did the exact same thing.
And then under the thing of like, we don't want communism to spread, which is funny to be like, we don't want you want to be free, guys. Trust me. And you're like burning villages down. Like, trust me, this is better.
And I think we did the same thing kind of in Afghanistan, right? In Iraq, where it would be like, we're going to give you guys money, work with us. And then the Taliban comes in at night and is like, puts a gun to their head and is like, well, you work with us.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the whole problem with everything, right?
Yeah.
If you go to if the cops go to a neighborhood bar, the only analogy I ever use and everything is a neighborhood bar. And but if they go to a neighborhood bar and go, listen, we want you guys to do a couple of troublemakers in here, and the troublemakers are in there. Or they're outside waiting for these guys to leave.
Yeah.
They're not there. They're only going to be there they know you're going to leave. You're not there to stay forever. So it always ends up screwing you,
Yeah, and if we don't kill them at night, they're going to come get fucking beheaded.
Well, isn't that what happened in Vietnam? I mean, once they took over,
exactly,
they Cambodia, all that stuff, they just destroyed. Genocide got rid of everybody that bugged them in. Everybody with a pair of glasses. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
it's like
how'd you get those?
They literally went. Well, just anybody who was sort of fancy themselves intellectual. It was like it's like the army came in and literally just rampaged through Bushwick, Williamsburg, and Greenpoint in the past 3 years.
Nice.
And just said,
hey, I get it.
Everybody here who's been to a show at a bookstore. Just line up.
Just burn the bookstores.
Yeah, it's I mean, that's the thing that's why I never really got into Vietnam. I like the Civil War and World War II where it's like it's kind of noble.
Right. It seems
and then Vietnam is the first one that's like,
well, it's so, but even Korea was like a harbinger. It's all like Korea, so psychological, right? Yeah. And another uncle who fought in World War II and fought with Audie Murphy. Do you know who Audie Murphy was?
No, who's that?
He's the most famous World War II hero.
Okay.
Like they made him a movie star. He wasn't a good actor, but he was this legendary World War II. My uncle happened to be in his unit.
Oh, wow.
And he said that all the hype, to show you the difference in the war, all the hype about him was true. He goes, this guy was the bravest. He goes, he was so crazy. He'd run right into battle.
Yeah.
They were at Anzio. They were at Battle of the Bulge. All these places. He goes, he would just run right into battle.
He's nuts.
and in those days, they'd celebrate now
Like,
in
man,
World
that's a
War II.
hero.
Even you know, any movie about Iraq, there's still an undertone of darkness. All the World War II movies, they're like, hey, there's no problem here.
Yeah. Kick their ass.
Yeah, like
that's
this guy's great. You know, it had like a positive
Like
tone to
John
it.
Basilone. You know,
What's
that
that?
guy? He was in the Pacific. There's a rest stop in New Jersey, like one of the first rest stops. That's what he got out of it.
Oh,
He got the Medal of Honor.
That's awesome.
He fucking, it's in the Pacific, and like he goes wild, picks up his gun without the fucking
right.
heat pad, just mows down the jet, and then he goes home. So they put him on a USO tour to sell fucking bonds, and he's like, no, I need to go back and fight.
Yeah.
So then he goes to Iwo Jima and is like, I'm gonna do that gun thing again,
What?
and he died.
Oh no.
Yeah, he
Bust out the
died,
trick.
but he got
Yeah, boy, like he
was
does
a-
a strike trace. Yeah.
he fucking
Yeah, my
But
mom's
he got
cousin did
arrested
3
up.
tours of Vietnam. He
Really?
did one, and he's like, send me back, and did another, and he's
Whoa.
like, give me one more.
Who did it?
My mom's cousin.
Wow.
He
He
did
did 3
He
tours?
did 2 more. He
3. Wow.
did 3. He was like, fuck it, I'm not going back. I'm gonna
And what did
stay
he
here.
end up doing after the war?
I saw him like spazzing, fighting an arcade owner on the boardwalk one time.
that was
He's a
Charlie.
good man. He's a
that
good
was
man.
Charlie, dude.
Dude, he was.
But that's the whole point. Yeah.
He was with my mom the one time when they were younger, and he was sleeping in the car, and some guy like screamed something at my mom, and he like popped up and just got out and beat the shit out. They were in traffic on the highway.
Yeah.
He beat the
Sure.
shit out of the guy and throw him on the side of the road. And he's like, "Come on, let's go."
Imagine that guy. He sees a woman in a car. He's like, "Fuck you."
The guy
Then the guy
sits up.
pops up.
Yeah, dude, just pops
That's a
up.
Vietnam.
The
Fresh
Vietnam
from
vet.
3 tours. Yeah, I think it was like 74. Just pops up like what?
Can you imagine 3 tours? I mean, I mean, 2 tours is crazy, but at least you feel like during the second tour, the guy's like, fuck, what did I say yes to this?
Yeah,
But if you go for 3, that means you're like in all the way.
Yeah.
that's when I told the dude I was talking to, was my ex-father-in-law. I was telling him about my mom's cousin. He's like, oh, that guy just likes killing people.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe.
I mean, he probably just. There's also the guys.
Everyone's
that
got their thing.
You go there. True. You go there, and then you go home, and you're like, I can't be home after.
Yeah.
You're just in the fucking jungle
Yeah.
killing
Yes.
people. Now you got to go pretend to be a human.
Yep.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
when you get off the road for a long time.
Yeah.
Say it happens to
really
cops.
is.
It happens to cops to
If
a
you
lesser
did it
degree.
with a friend. What's that? Yeah.
It happens to cops too.
Yes.
They get addicted to that adrenalized state and they go home. They're like, this sucks.
Sure.
And they stay there forever.
And
Get fat.
but the other thing with Vietnam, which I've watched a lot of those YouTube guys where they interview, and you see the similarities in them eventually. And one of them is that they said they got screwed. First of all, just imagine this: supposed to be the country sending all this money for aid. Several of them said the sea rations were terrible. He goes, we looked at the date on some of them; they were Korean and World War II.
Yikes.
That's how old the sea rations
Yeah.
were.
Jesus.
That they're giving to the troops at supposedly the richest time in our history. And the other one is the M14. They said the M16 got more guys killed when they switched to the M16 because Westmoreland wanted, or one of these guys it was like a vanity project. The M14 wouldn't jam in the mud. The
Oh, I did hear
M16
that, yeah.
jammed. And they said guys would just be getting killed, bayoneted to death because it would
Christ.
jam and you couldn't unjam it.
Oh, fuck.
And the M14 was, the early gun was better.
That sucks.
Yeah. America really fucked up. I don't like it.
But yeah.
The whole thing. Just
The whole thing was
bums
just-
me out.
Yeah.
And then each president had an opportunity to fucking end it.
Yeah, that's right.
And they all just keep fucking dragging it out.
But that's what I mean. That's what I'm saying about that
Yeah.
state. Kennedy.
Yeah. He was close to ending it.
He was, but he
Yeah.
wasn't.
Well, they
You know what I
they
mean?
made
Like-
sure he didn't.
And they said, and this guy Van was talking to Henry Cabot Lodge, who was the ambassador, all the guys who were close to Kennedy. And it was just one of those things where it's like, just at the last minute, it's like any other decision you've seen in any power person, where you're like, everybody has this logical argument, and then they go, no, I think this is better.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? Why? You don't even give us a reason. And he never gave us a reason.
There was
there any kind of economic advantage that like was clear?
I don't think so.
Really? They didn't
I don't
even like
think there was
make
any-
any. Yeah, I guess there
I
was
don't know.
nothing really there.
I mean, there was
Babes,
rubber. No, there was
babes.
rubber.
Babes.
Yeah.
All the shit that was there was gone when we left.
True.
Yeah.
Rubber, coconuts, all the rice. It was all gone. I mean, we fucking killed it.
Damn, that sucks.
I mean, Agent Orange. I mean, when you think about it.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Agent Orange killing all the people. They said their levels of whatever dioxin were 3 times anybody else by the time we left. And all the troops. I mean, doing it to your own troops is just crazy. I mean, that's the height of like immorality, you know, to just the guys that are there fighting and you're just like, yeah, well, you know, it's like, no. They're the ones you have to really try to be a little more careful with, the opposite of what you're doing. It was really a weird situation, you know.
Also, the French were using napalm too.
They were before us?
Yeah, they were. We did everything they did.
Sounds like a French word.
Exact
napalm.
same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what that is?
Yeah, that
Napalm
fucking
just
was
gel.
Yeah, isn't it like petroleum gel and they light it on fire and you spread it if you like touch it. You put water
don't
on
have to
it.
light it on fire. It just goes on your body. It burns.
Yeesh. And water makes it worse, right? Because if you take a grease fire, put water on it, gets worse. Yeah, it stinks. And I mean, but France really wanted Vietnam, so
well, they had it before that.
Yeah,
they wanted it back. I mean, they had it, they lost it. They're like, I think we can get this back.
they want their baby back.
Started
But
spreading
what
some
is-
fire on people.
Yeah, what is it about Vietnam that's so? Because we apparently wanted it too. We went in there in the mid-50s and we couldn't leave. You ever go to a party and you're like, I gotta leave. This party's over.
Oh yeah,
And it's like,
it's
and
like, you know,
you
I
gotta
guess
get
I will
up.
do some coke.
You're saying it was 2 a.m. It was 2
And you
a.m. in
end up going,
Vietnam.
if only I had left at 11 o'clock like I planned to. That's Vietnam.
This probably is just a psychological thing. It's like you want to be the best general. You start losing. You're like, fuck. We got this. We got this. And it's like, no. We should have this. Hear me out. This is my passion project.
Yeah.
This is my baby.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing. Everybody was just about, you know, the military, like their job is to get more money for the military.
Mm-hmm.
How can you get more money if you're not in a war, you know?
So how did what do you like? How's this thing progress? What do you?
Yeah.
How does it end? What's going on?
Vietnam?
Yeah.
I mean, look, it ended when we left. It was the most, it was really, they're lucky it was the mid-70s. It was like 75, that famous rooftop thing.
Saigon, yeah.
They're lucky because by then, everybody was, it was like the age of apathy when I was a teenager. People were just into drugs, you know, dancing, and, you know, it was just a very hedonistic time. People were done with all the protesting that happened in the 60s. People were done by the 70s. You know what I mean? And they're just like, yeah. And so when people left, there wasn't even outrage. It was like, oh, that was awkward.
That was a bummer.
That was
Damn.
just, people were just like, whoa.
Yeah.
It just
Coke and
looked so bad.
disco, yeah.
And you feel bad for all the people that, you know, all the Vietnamese that were still helping us by the end were fucked.
Yeah, like that
They got
famous
killed.
that helicopter on the roof.
The helicopter on the
That
roof.
picture. That's a long line.
Yeah.
And that's the last chopper.
That's right.
Those boys
Last
are staying, and that's
That's
a
right.
fucking negative time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
When that chopper takes off and you're like next in line, like fuck.
I've
Should've
had
got
that.
here
I've had a
5
similar
minutes
experience.
earlier.
I was at Longwood Gardens waiting for a shuttle to like go see the shuttles. Like I was like the last guy. I had to wait like 15 more minutes. I was like, motherfucker.
Yeah,
I
I know that.
don't know what happened. It settled down. It's better now.
No, it's not.
That's not tearing. The damage is done.
I mean, that's the thing. The power shift immediately.
Yeah.
And all the people, like when you think about the people right now in your life that you were like, fuck you. And then if suddenly they're in power, they go, where is this son of a bitch? Astoria? Where does he live again?
Yeah.
And then, you know, you just hope they, you know,
Well,
accidentally mistake you for Mike Feeney and kill him.
yeah, but what's it like? So you grew up watching Vietnam, and then what was it like for you to see like the Iraq War and all? Because the older I get, the more I'm like, I already saw this before.
I believed that there were weapons of mass destruction.
They got you too.
They got me. I believed it all the way. I said, there's got to be weapons of mass destruction. It wouldn't be this, you know, they wouldn't be going to this extreme after Vietnam.
They wouldn't be
if it
our
wasn't
leaders.
true.
Oh.
They're not going to be fooled twice.
Wouldn't be this diabolical.
I said they can't be that stupid, you know, or diabolical. Either way, I said there's no way there's not weapons of mass destruction.
And there wasn't.
I mean, I was a kid.
Me and the Senate believed this.
Yeah, you and Hillary Clinton.
All of us, yeah. Only a few didn't.
I was a kid, and it was 2003.
Yeah.
So I was fresh off 9/11. I was an 8th grade fucking patriot.
I had a bone to pick. Yeah.
I was pretty much a troop at
Yeah,
this
they
point.
had you. They had you.
4 years later, I'd be going to West Point.
Yeah, they had you.
I was ready.
Yeah.
But yeah,
They
Vietnam,
warmed my seat up.
Iraq, I was pumped. I was watching you remember when you
I like
watched
the fact
the
that he
news?
thinks you get into West Point. You know, that's a hard school to get into.
I got in.
He was in.
You did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm
I
very
went.
impressed. You did?
Yeah, well, I quit right away, but I went.
Oh, that's impressive.
Yeah.
What do you have to get on your fucking SATs to get into a place
I
like
played
that?
football. That helped.
Oh.
Yeah, they got me in for that.
Yeah.
I got like an 11 something on my SATs.
Yeah,
Nothing. Yeah, it's a
better
little
than me, but it's not that good.
little above average. Yeah.
That's potential. 1100.
I got 1030.
I was 1100.
For football, that's a fucking 1600.
Yeah,
I got
true.
1030. In my defense, I did take them on THC.
That's pretty tight, actually.
You know, they used to have hits
THC
of
pills, or are you
THC.
smoking weed?
Pills back then.
Yeah, that was in the 70s. THC
We had
pills.
THC
What?
pills.
Yeah, dude.
I
People
thought that
just
was
snort 'em and
fucking
shit.
new age bullshit.
No,
Nah, dude.
All that shit we took, it wasn't probably as powerful, but it was
Yeah.
real.
I heard the THC pills are powerful as fuck.
Now?
No,
I'll give
the
you an
ones
idea.
back then.
Oh.
Well, because angel dust was sometimes sprinkled in. But I'll tell you what, first time I
Like,
took,
this is going to chill me out.
to give you an idea of how if THC was powerful, the first time I took it, I was on the corner of my block and I had to walk back to my house because I was like, it's probably a couple of 100 yards, from the corner. I had to walk by putting my hands against the wall.
Oh, shit.
Like this the whole way. That's how scared I was.
No, that's
I was like this.
You had way more than THC.
No, I'm telling you, 'cause they didn't know. They would make pills and they would be like 2,000 milligrams. They didn't know anything.
Yes.
It was people in the 1950s.
I remember them.
like,
They were pink, small squad. I still remember them.
yeah, it was just pure THC. I would hear about this all the time. And they would take these pure THC pills, and it was probably like 2,000 milligrams. And no one had any idea what was coming. No one had those, like, one time I took an edible at the airport
Yeah,
stories.
true.
It was just, you grew up in the 60s, and all of a sudden you're on 2,000 milligrams of weed.
Well,
You were
those,
like,
those people really, at least by the 70s, it was more, those people, they would dose the punch. Like people, you didn't even want to take, you were there for a fucking glass of wine and a joint, and suddenly you're tripping on this giant. That was the crazy times of the 60s.
that was the acid, too.
People ended up, you still see a few acid casualties from those days.
Yeah.
Well, the government would do experiments, and they'd be like, we'll give them what would be like 800 hits of acid. And they'd be like, yeah, this stuff fucks people up. It's like, well, you gave them 9 million
No,
times.
people would volunteer for that shit. I would have if I was a teenager back then. I know I would have.
Yeah, that'd have been tight.
I would have been happy as hell.
Yeah, that was a weird. That must have been. I mean, I'm talking like I was there. I just hear from. I used to sell weed to people, and they were like, anytime the dude was like 60 now, they'd be like, you should have seen the THC. But they would always get the. There was that. There was the ludes that were kicking around.
The ludes were good and bad, but I mean THC was something very specific. Like ludes were around for years.
Your guys' drugs stunk. It was dust, THC pills.
Yeah.
and
Dust was the worst.
You guys would have loved Molly.
Probably, yeah.
Ecstasy would have been nice. You guys would have enjoyed
What
that.
we used to take was methadone was different forms back then. Like in the 60s, I think it was a DMT or whatever it was. But by the 70s, we would take crystal meth, which sounds more dangerous than it was. It wasn't as powerful as meth, but it wasn't meth. No, it was. We used to take it all the time, crystal meth.
It's probably Adderall.
But it was not. It was definitely child's play compared to what meth was.
Yeah. Oh, you guys were just like taking them.
Yeah.
Uppers, Quaaludes,
Uppers.
Taking some
dust.
crystal meth.
Dust is nice. That's a good.
Angel dust I never took, thank God.
I smoked it on accident.
Bad,
What?
right? Bad.
It was fucked up.
People got addicted to it. I can't imagine how.
I knew a guy. You know them. They always are. They have an eye like this all the time. Whenever someone does dust a lot, they always like twitch real
Oh,
hard.
fuck.
I know
But
a
the-
dude that was going like I think 20 miles an hour on a motorcycle on 95.
You know what's interesting?
He got in trouble.
You know what's interesting about Vietnam, which I realized we all had army jackets in the mid 70s, early 70s to mid 70s. Everybody wore Vietnam the green army jacket. Like that was the biggest style. And it was Vietnam vet. It was Vietnam clothes. So even though nobody really welcomed them home, that was a really important part of the style.
That's funny because people dress like construction workers now here.
Yeah.
So
That's
it's kinda
right.
Like, yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. You dress like somebody who works harder than you.
True.
That's right. But
So did you get to witness like dudes coming home and getting kind of treated like shit?
No, but I definitely, like I said, in class, that girl's brother died.
Yeah.
And like I said, I knew the Vietnam vets, but they didn't get treated like shit in my neighborhood. I mean, but because everybody's like, oh, they went to Vietnam. It was
it's fucked up.
It was a consequential thing. I think it was mostly like at protests or at the airports. But I mean, in general,
Was it looked at as kind of like a shame? Like he went to
no,
in
not a
Vietnam?
shame. But there was something like it was a serious, like everybody knew, like these guys went through something that was a little different from like World War II and stuff.
That's how
And
it
they,
is.
and they had long hair. So even the patriotic people were like, this guy's like,
Oh, fuck.
because they had
Yeah.
long hair. But they were, they were great guys. I mean,
Yeah.
some of them were really great guys, Like
That's
they weren't
kinda-
that fucked up, but they get wasted at night. But everybody, in those days, it was different. Like they weren't like, oh, that guy drinks because he's a Vietnam vet. People were getting fucked up all the time.
Yeah.
Everybody was smoking weed. Everybody had long hair. Everybody had army jackets, and everybody was just kind of insane. So it was
Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
It was kind of awesome, but so there was something different, at least around then at that time, you know.
I need to bring it back.
But
I'll bring it back.
I need to get way more militant in my weed smoking army jacket. I'm fucking up right now.
It's funny to be fucked up and smoking weed. Like
It is, yeah.
you're like, yeah, I'm just dark.
You're military.
I need to be like.
It is weird that our biology rejects burning villages on some level.
Yeah.
You know, if you do it, it fucks you up.
It's tough coming back.
Fucks
oh
up your
my
mind.
God! But I mean, the tragedy is that that was literally the strategy that they
Yeah.
were told to do.
Yeah.
So what does that do to you? You're listening to the people. You don't make those decisions. It's a chain of command.
Yeah.
And they're saying burn the villages.
You can't really half-ass it, really. It's
Oh
like
my
set,
God!
like,
I
one thing on
read
fire.
a horrible book. It was just witness guys that had done atrocities in Vietnam. It was just an oral history
Ugh.
from guys that have done things in Vietnam. And I'll tell you, I remember one quote somebody said, "You'll never be surprised. You're going to be shocked." Some guy was talking to some other reporter or somebody who was going over there. And he goes, "You're going to be shocked at the cruelty of a 19-year-old American boy, like, and what they'll be capable of by the time they leave."
I mean, that's
and the
the
guy
thing.
goes, "That's what happened." Yeah,
That's the thing. Every one of these wars, every one of these atrocities is 19-year-old, 20-year-old boys they've been killing people for a year.
sure.
They're gonna go wild.
Yeah, once one of your friends gets shot, it's like, all right, well, fuck
Yeah,
this.
we'd be the same fucking way.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
You know what I mean? To varying degrees. Some people would love it more than other people. We'd all be the same way.
Yeah, you would love it.
What, war?
Yeah, no, committing atrocities.
Yeah, right. I'd hate it.
You would be the
I'd hate it.
worst.
Fuck me up. I'd be in a long hair and a jacket so quick. Just like, what the fuck's going on? Yeah, I don't know. That would be. I mean, you know, because there's like, I think they just gas you up enough to get you over there, and then it's like your friend gets shot,
Or you
and
get
then it's
fucking
just like,
drafted, dude.
true. Yeah,
Think of that. You
Forgot
get
about
fucking
that.
drafted
Yeah.
into that. You're just
Yeah, you're in college. Like, even the guys who just
Yeah.
were like, I decided to drop out for one semester. They go, the minute I dropped out, they got me. Like, they were watching people
Yeah.
to make sure the minute they got him, they're like, get that fucking guy. They're probably like finding out their grades are like, and get this, he's going to drop out.
he's not gonna do
yeah.
anything.
My uncle played basketball just to get out of. He played basketball at Westchester to get out of it. I
Really?
think, yeah.
Who did?
My Uncle Jack. He played. He was like, he was of the perfect age to get drafted, and he just hooped it up.
My dad graduated college or high school in '74,
Mhm.
so he got a draft card, but he was.
My dad was too.
I always
young.
make fun of him for being a draft out.
He got a draft.
He got a draft card. He didn't get drafted. But
Yeah, 74.
the
was
war
all
ended.
People trying to get out of there.
The
Yeah.
war ended, but it was funny it's fun to make fun
He
of him.
probably got the last year of the draft. The draft
Yeah.
probably ended in
Oh,
75.
that must have been
Yeah.
so nice.
It's nice to make fun of him for being a draft
I can't
out.
believe you
That's
played
very funny.
football at West Point. That's pretty impressive.
Well, I didn't. I quit.
Yeah, you
But
practiced.
let's answer this question. Did you just play football in high school and you were going to try to get on West Point's team? Or was West Point putting you on the team?
No, West Point recruited me. I got recruited.
Uncle
That's
Sam.
impressive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
That's fucking Division I, isn't it?
Yeah.
D1 ball.
Shit.
Yeah, that's why
What
I went.
position do you play? Wait,
Offensive line.
Quarterback.
Wait.
I was the quarterback.
I was a
I
wide
was going to
out.
say tight end.
That'd be really nice. No,
Tight
I
end's
was
the best position
I
to
was
play
a
in
fucking
football.
offensive
True.
guard.
Tight end's the best position because you don't really have to block. You don't really have to catch, but you have to do both, and you do them whenever you want.
True. You just got to run and go.
Tight end.
That's it.
Yeah, 3 steps, cut across the middle.
That is
Yeah.
impressive.
It's
It is impressive.
D1 ball.
Yeah, you
Fucking
guys should have seen me
You should
crying.
go to Penn State. Didn't you grow up near Penn State?
Yeah, I wasn't good enough for that.
No, they're fucking
Those
monsters.
guys are fucking.
Yeah.
They're monsters.
There's a difference.
Yeah,
In
they were another-
Division One. There's a huge jump from Army to
You just have to play Navy.
a major program.
You would have been
yeah.
in a war, though.
Yeah, it was 2006. I would have been.
You've been.
Yeah.
I would have
you would've
graduated.
been.
Yeah, I would have been in.
You might have tortured.
The
You
Middle
might
you
have
would have
tanked
been
the
in
village.
You would have been at the surge in Iraq and then Afghanistan. We shuttled you right over to Afghanistan.
Man, you would have been.
And I went over
I'd
and did
have been
shows in Djibouti too. We had, we
Oh,
had troops
nice.
in Djibouti,
Yeah,
right by
right.
Somalia. We got off the plane, and it was flies. I mean, the whole sky. Like, I'm like, what is this? What is right up here? It was this dark, like dirt. Like, I thought there was like some kind of a coal oven. It was flies.
Oh.
It's fucking flies.
Djibouti and Somalia would not be great to grow up in.
No.
Djibouti stinks.
Somalia would be pretty
Yeah.
good. Did you ever read the
It really
Ion
does
Hershey?
stink,
It
doesn't
was
it?
Fucking
Djibouti?
yeah, it's a
I
rough
mean, it's
place.
such a funny place.
You know what the capital of Djibouti is?
What?
Djibouti.
Really?
Yeah.
Djibouti, Djibouti?
Yeah.
Pretty tight.
Just thought that's nice.
Where
But
is
yeah.
Djibouti?
It's on the Horn of
Djibouti?
Africa.
But that's what they said about Vietnam.
By the
They said
Middle
you
East.
get off
Is it
the
really?
plane and it stunk. That was the first thing they noticed.
Fuck.
They said it's the hottest place on the planet and it
stinks.
smelled.
Yeah.
The minute you got off, that was the first thing everybody noticed.
Djibouti stinks.
No,
least-
Vietnam.
At least.
Oh, Vietnam stinks. Sorry, I thought you said. I didn't know.
I know what you're doing, Matt.
No, that's what I thought you were talking about.
We got good movies and music out of it, though.
Vietnam?
Out of Vietnam.
Was that really Vietnam, though?
Yeah, the birds.
There's enough suffering and bullshit that good stuff came out of it.
I'm saying, but most of those
Oh yeah, it came after, obviously.
or before, or but it wasn't really directly related to it. You know,
ABBA.
what's that?
ABBA came
ABBA
out
came
after.
out 'cause
Came
of
out
Vietnam.
I'm
after.
saying all the good music was used in the Vietnam movies.
Yeah,
but it wasn't
true.
necessarily because of Vietnam.
Ah.
Yeah.
By the way, I did a show, a 9/11 Wounded Warrior thing last summer, and in the middle of it, John Fogerty, speaking of one of the famous Vietnam soundtrack guys, you know, Creedence Clearwater.
Yeah.
He gets on in the middle of the show. Everybody's tired, by himself basically, which is a little band, and sounds and looks exactly like he looked from the old days, and destroys the place.
Wow.
Damn.
It was really so impressive to see, and he was a real Vietnam soundtrack guy. You know,
Yeah.
every Vietnam movie he's got a like Creedence Clearwater
Yeah.
song.
They'd be nothing without Vietnam.
Creedence Clearwater.
Yeah.
That was-
Well, they wouldn't have made they wouldn't have been bad. They wouldn't have lasted that long. You're right.
True.
But it's also because he had a lot of rain songs and a lot of apocalyptic songs. I think that helped. Like, for example,
like, have you ever seen?
right. Well, that song, Have You Ever Seen Rain? Like, I was like, oh, that must be about Vietnam because it's about this whole clash. It must be about the end of the world. It's about him and his brother fighting and then breaking up a band. So this is what I mean. I want it to be about Vietnam.
Yeah.
He's got an argument with his brother.
Yeah.
Wasn't that the guy who got sued for using copying his own music when he did CCR? That was owned by some record label. Then he put out his own stuff, but it sounded so much like CCR. He got sued by his record label for
That's
stealing his
evil.
own music
They would
for
sue a
sounding
guy.
too much like himself.
That's evil.
That's a tragedy.
Maybe
That's
Hitler was
evil.
right.
That makes me sick.
I think that was him.
That makes me sick to my stomach.
Yeah.
They have the audacity to sue a guy.
It was illegal for him to go "Da-na-na-na," too
be
many
himself.
downstrokes at once. They'd be like,
Oh my God, that's really psychotic.
fucked up.
Yeah.
In the 80s too, he needed. He
Well, I'll
probably
tell you
needed
one
to
of the
fire it back
greatest
up.
scenes in. You ever see that Beach Boys movie where his father goes, "Well, I sold the rights," and that guy, you know, what's that actor's name? He's really good. The young guy that played Brian Wilson and so.
I don't think I saw a Beach Boys movie.
It's pretty good. I mean, it's not that great, but he's this
Rock?
guy's so good. He's that actor. He's always in a million things, but he just is sick. He looked sick.
Yeah.
When his father goes, I says, you know, the Beach Boys' father was like a real dick. Beach Boys, another one. Talk about I wonder how that influenced their relationship with music. Like, because music, Beach Boys is before people knew about Vietnam.
Mm.
And then, a lot of bands were associated with the more conservative, I would say, here are the bands that would be the Vietnam vet guys. Not the hip music, it was anti-war. I would say the Beach Boys, Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, the Young Rascals. Like, there's certain bands
Damn, it sucks to have PTSD and listening to fucking the Beach Boys.
It was
You're
probably
waking up in
yeah.
nightmare every day.
Well, then they got weird. The Beach Boys ended up getting kind of weird.
Sure. Well, I don't want to discuss it unless you guys watch the movie.
Oh,
Because it's
true,
such
true.
a known entity. But the whole thing is that crazy Mike Love, you know, he's the lead.
Yeah.
He was the one, he tried to sue Brian Wilson for using the name Beach Boys when Brian Wilson wrote all the songs.
That's fucked up.
But then he gives this speech. You have to watch this speech of him at the when they were inducted into the Hall of Fame, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in like 1988. Because everybody said he was kind of a douchebag, you know. He gets up there and he goes, "This is 1988, 88,"
Yeah.
and he goes, "Beach Boys, I'd like to thank. We had more #1 hits than anybody else. We toured the world 16 months in a row. I'd like to see the Mop Tops, that's the Beatles, try to beat that one."
Oh, fuck.
And then he says something else. He goes, "I'd like to see Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones try to top," like he was literally arguing from like 1965.
The Beach Boys
And the
are
whole
number
place
one.
was like, oh.
Beach Boys fucking rule, dude.
That just moved me. I'm like, fuck yeah, dude. Fucking
Yeah.
pussy ass Beatles.
Beatles are fucking pussies.
Mick Jagger's a bitch, dude.
Yeah.
The Beatles are the best. First of all, I love the Beach Boys, but the Beatles are the best because just imagine everybody's trying to be hipper and more bluesy, and these guys will be like, bah, 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 bah. In the middle of their thing, they'll do songs with fucking oboes and kazoos.
Yeah.
That kind of rules. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of badass.
They took it
back.
back for the whites.
They took it back to their stupid dance hall shit from England in the 50s, you know. But that was
Did you
the
watch the
producer.
Get Back documentary?
No.
That made me a Beatlemania.
I heard it was
Beatlemania
awesome.
for-
I
pretty
want to
tight.
see it so badly, but I want to get Disney Plus. I'm just too lazy. I'm sick of putting in passwords.
True.
I can't do it. I have to have a password for Disney Plus. Can't they have one password for everything and just use it? Like one thing you could buy a subscription.
It's communism, dude. We almost had it. We
Yeah.
fought it off.
Was that now?
Yeah, it was communism. We almost had it.
Yeah,
Communism
we were all
is
on
one
one
password. One
One
password.
password.
That would
Good.
get me, actually. Like, dude, everything's on one thing. Just put on your gray sweatsuit.
But the Beatles were, they were part of that. Music was, you're right, like music was really part of what people at that time, like I remember it was such a Vietnam thing. Like you would see these shows, and even as little kids, we knew, like if you'd watch like the Dean Martin show, because we watch everything. You were a little kid. And you watch like, the Dean Martin had a TV show, and you knew they were pro-war. And then you watch, you know, almost no other TV show was anti-war, really. Laughing was a little bit, you know. And
Which one was anti-war?
what, Laughing?
Yeah,
I'm saying like all these shows on TV. So they have these old people, and you'd think, even though we're like 7 years old, we're like those are the squares. Like, you know what I mean? They were like pro-war, and then you see
So
like
it was cool. It was cool to be anti-war when you were young.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, that was like the hip thing.
Oh, so you're saying like the sanctioned station shows were just kind of
Yeah, like most of you knew like they were squares, even though we were little
Yeah.
kids. We knew they're squares.
So the shows of that time were supporting a horrific war and like a horrific kind
But
of
they were really
government thing.
supporting it, but
now,
you just kind of knew
no way.
that was like the way it was in some weird way. You could sense like that was it. That's why Saturday Night Live was the first really anti-establishment. Like I know the Smothers Brothers and all this other stuff, but
Still are.
Saturday Night Live.
SNL's, yeah, they go against the grain.
Oh yeah,
Way big time, dude.
yeah. But I mean, at that when they first started. But again, it wasn't political by then.
Yeah.
That was just like, oh shit, these people. We all smoked weed. Like the whole country smoked weed in those days. Everybody got fucking high. It's amazing to me that it wasn't legalized then.
Yeah.
Everybody smoked weed. Everybody had weed on them at all times. Everybody, you know, under age 40. And SNL was the first time people were like wearing tie-dyed shirts on TV. Like they didn't dress up and jeans, and you could tell they were
Really?
Yeah.
stoned, and you could tell they make little jokes the whole show about being stoned. So like that was like it was the most breakthrough thing anyone had seen on TV.
That's kind of nuts to think. When was that?
75, 76.
That's kind of nuts to think about. Yeah.
That was the end of right after the war ended, I guess.
And now,
Yeah.
you know, the major late night shows are just freewheeling. Big
Oh,
time
they say it
freewheeling.
Now it's just back to Vietnam,
Truth to power.
where they're all like,
Yeah.
Truth to power.
you better listen to the government.
True.
Like, all right.
Yep.
It's
The
kind of fucked
government's
up.
right.
Dude, I'm telling you, I talked about that earlier. It's the concept of Enantiodromia, where anything at its absolute extreme flips into its opposite.
Yeah.
Sure. What do you call it? Anti what?
And I think I'm not pronouncing it right, but Enantiodromia.
I'm not sure.
It's a swing of the pendulum, dude.
Yeah.
The pendulum's reaching just to go back.
Can't
to
you
the
say
other side.
swing of the pendulum is more poetic?
Yeah,
Why do you
true.
have
I
to
should
use a
say that.
scientific term for something that was beautifully...
It just sounds cool.
No, swing of pendulum sounds cool.
The pendulum swing. The
Pendulum
zenith of the
sounds cool.
The zenith of the pendulum is just the beginning of it going
Yeah,
back
like
to the
that
other
pit in the
state.
pendulum. I like that. I mean, that's not what you're saying, but pendulum is much cooler than antiodromia.
Okay.
Yeah. Matt,
Fair
shut
enough.
the fuck
Matt,
up. What are you
listen
thinking?
to me.
Sorry, guys.
Poetry.
I thought I was doing something.
Poetic.
Antiodromia was nice.
My eye hurts.
Was that, what's the fucking snake eating itself?
Ouroboros.
That thing too.
That too.
Yeah, that's in there too. We got that.
You know what I'm
Snake
saying?
eating itself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. Fucking
Yeah,
whatever.
Ouroboros, dude.
What do you
Yeah.
call it?
Ouroboros.
Ouroboros.
Cosmic Star, yeah.
But does it
Yeah.
really eat itself, or does it just appear to eat its own skin?
That's the question.
Really, nobody knows.
Gosh. Let's get back to Vietnam, dude.
How about King Rat? I like that one too.
What's King
What's
Rat?
that?
All the rats are in a circle together. Do you know that one? Yeah, they all like eat. What do they do? Their tails get caught together and they end up.
Oh yeah, a rat net, like when their tails get knotted together. You ever see that?
Oh, fuck.
It's
That's what a
fucking
King Rat is?
disgusting.
Ew. Yeah.
And what do they bite each other to death?
Probably.
I don't know.
That's what rat. Yeah, rats for sure.
Oh
You ever
my
see
God.
rats get killed by terriers?
Yes,
That's
It's pretty fun to
fantastic.
watch.
the greatest.
Yeah.
It's like
It's-
in Northern
really
England.
fun to
they're like,
watch.
okay, well, let
Yeah,
them
they
go.
just dig them up.
Oh.
And, yeah.
Yeah, it is the best.
That's good.
It's the best. See them scared for once.
Yeah.
Not so tough.
I don't mind the rats in New York.
You don't?
They don't affect me.
Nah, they start.
That's because you live in a story where
There's almost no rats up here.
That's right, because it's all, well, I'll tell you where they are.
They
Probably right by the that little area near the airport.
Although I saw one last night for the first time,
Big boy?
on my front porch there.
Right here?
Yeah, it's the first time I've seen one.
It's called an airway.
What is it called?
Airway.
Airway? Front porch.
Well, there's no porch.
Well, you don't have to be poetic about it.
No, but airways. But I'm being in New York about it. Call it airway.
You call it an airway?
Yeah.
I'm not in New York at all.
Yeah, but it's just you're living in.
I know. I'm working on it.
Airway. Why do they call them an airway?
I don't know.
What?
That's what we call them growing up. Airway.
Oh, you're from New York.
Yeah.
Where in New York?
Brooklyn.
How do you feel about Brooklyn now?
That's fantastic. Well, I mean, I have mixed feelings because, like I said, if it had kept going the way it was going, it wouldn't exist anyway.
True.
Obviously now
That's an Enantiodromia.
I was going to say it's either way.
Yeah.
The extreme now is the other thing.
Mobsters and white pussies.
Enantiodromia. I'm starting to like Enantiodromia now.
Hell yeah. None of us are saying it right.
But
I'm
only-
pretty sure.
Yeah.
That is
My
a
girlfriend
thing.
likes Brooklyn.
She
I
does.
like Queens.
You do? Yeah.
I like this. This is good. This neighborhood's good.
I used to live up the block.
Yeah, that's crazy. You lived right
I lived
there.
right up the block. I lived on 42nd Street and 30th Avenue.
Yeah,
What?
there's a bar there called Blackbirds. I don't know if it was around back then.
Well, back then, Suspenders. Suspenders, the Fireman Bar on 37th and 3rd. They used to have a location over there.
Okay.
The bus terminal's still over here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I live, right near the bus terminal.
Fuck
It's
yeah.
wild.
It's crazy to me.
I
Walking on
I
the train is a
kind
pain
of
in
like
my
seeing
ass.
the rats though.
You
I'll-
do?
when I walk from the stand and the cellar, like back and forth, you walk through. I guess it's Washington, not Washington Square Park. I think Grant. What park's right by the
You
stand?
talk about like by Irving
Union
Place?
Square. Union Square. I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
And the wall, the park's like shoulder level. It's a little elevated, so you see the rats like see them
On
running
the
around
wall?
like right next to you.
They love a wall, don't they?
Yeah.
They love a
Wait,
trail.
so did you see the dude? Did you see like 42nd Street back in its heyday?
I didn't just see it. I
What was it like?
indulged in it.
What was it like?
It was like
That was a glorious fapping at a peep show.
it was yeah, it was I mean, I was a kid, so to me it
Oh,
was
that's
very
perfect.
exciting. I was
That's
19,
perfect.
18, but
Wait, where?
it was
42nd
like
Street,
that.
Deuce.
Honestly,
Oh shit!
42nd Street back
I
when
thought
it was,
you were talking about this street. I was like, what the
I'd
fuck
I'd
is going on here?
fap-
This is 42nd
I'd
Street.
fap on 40. I'd fap here.
I do whack off on
Just the
42nd
Greek
Street.
guys. Just the Greek guys drinking like sparkling waters.
Wait, when you lived here, was it all fucking Greeks and Russians and Arabs here?
it was Greeks, yeah.
Yeah,
It was all Greeks. Back then it was all Greeks. I lived in the 80s.
yeah,
Probably 85, 86.
Damn.
And I feel like it was yesterday.
really.
I feel like I was just here. I was like, yeah, I used to live around here. It was 100 years ago. And I'm like, yeah, it
Yeah,
just feels like it was yesterday.
That's crazy.
that is fucked
I feel
up.
like I was just like 3 summers ago.
So you lived.
That's crazy.
So you love the Deuce, the show.
I like that show. I like
And
the
you
idea
lived
of
that
witnessing
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I was in Times Square it's funny because the 70s to me when I was a kid, like teenager, and we go to Times Square, it was wild. But the 80s, it was a little more dangerous in a different way. I can't really describe why because it was the same, but the 70s was like more like the Deuce.
Yeah.
And then the 80s was like these huge gangs, but the 70s there were huge gangs too. So sometimes you be on 42nd Street and a swarm of kids get off the train and just start robbing the few unshady people that were there and just start knocking shit over, ripping. It was the early days of camcorders. So you see the kids waving the trophy for camcorder, you know what I mean? Gang. But so it got a little wild, but I mean, and but like I said, I did a whole show about those days in New York, and one of the things I talk about is how people would go to a play, and nobody went for dinner or drinks after Broadway show. You went right, get the train or cab, and get the hell out
Took
of
off,
there
yeah.
immediately. Nobody would hang out after. You'd have dinner before. Or everything was shut down by 11 o'clock
Really?
after a play. Yeah, no, the streets would deserve. All Times Square was crowded, but with dirt bags and a few tourists that are like, what am I doing here? But the Broadway's, all like 8th Avenue, all those restaurants, all shut by 11 o'clock.
Damn. But you were saying as a teenager, you had access.
We
to-
loved it. You just
could-
take the train right here.
Damn, you're getting just going
And
to
I
a
lived
lady with a
in
bush.
the 80s, mid 80s. I lived in 44th, 45th Street and 9th Avenue. So I was always in Midtown in the middle of the heyday of all that stuff. You know?
Yeah, it's crazy. That used to be like severely fucked up over there. Now it's just like
it was really bad. Yeah.
You miss when it was shitty?
Yeah. I mean, you miss it, of course, but you know, you're looking with rose-colored glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Like
it was
if you were
very
there
bad.
now, you'd be mad.
Oh yeah. Well, even then I knew you could die. You know, there was a lot of bad shit going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even,
So it's always, you always remember like, oh, this, but it wasn't some fun glam. You
Yeah.
know, Taxi Driver is fun to watch as a movie, but when you're in the middle of it, it's like, yeah, no, it was really bad.
yeah, because even what was that Bruce Willis movie where it's shot in Philadelphia in the 80s and it's just terrifying? 12 Monkeys, was it?
Oh,
Or-
yeah.
They shot a Bruce Willis movie in the 80s in Philly, and it looks crazy how fucked up it was.
12 Monkeys in the late 90s.
Was that late 90s?
But that's Philly, you know. You have to subtract 10 years from
New
every
York.
other
Yeah,
place.
true.
Philly's fucking shitty, dude.
know.
Philly's in New York in the 70s. I used to always say that.
Yeah, it's still.
I was talking to Laura outside,
yeah.
and I go, oh, you're from Philly? I like Philly. She goes, yeah, it's screwed up now.
You should.
the people from there.
I can't stop talking about it. I've talked about it. We
Kensington.
were just down, dude. Kensington Avenue in Philadelphia
Yes.
is fucking crazy.
I know.
I've never seen anything like it.
It's like the
It's
Bowery.
truly a national disaster.
It's a national. It looks
It's
like
a
zombie
major-
apocalypse. It was
it's-
zombie apocalypse.
We were filming our sketch show down there last 2 weeks ago, and I would just drive after every shoot. It'd be like 1 or 2 in the morning, so I would drive up and down Kensington Ave, and I've never, dude, people injecting into their necks into open fucking wounds on their legs and shit.
It's terrible.
Yeah,
Well,
somebody
apparently-
should do something.
It's tough. They're
But
saying.
isn't it interesting? Like what? This is the problem with democracy. You can't just do something.
Yeah,
You have to make sure everybody's on board. Everybody understands. Even the people you want to stop have to be on board.
yeah.
That's the problem with democracy.
yeah.
Yeah, but if it was communism,
Well, I'd say
they'd be
communism.
up against the wall.
I was saying fascism,
Yeah,
monarchy,
yeah.
theocracy,
True. I like a nice
We do
theocracy.
need to fucking
Timocracy.
get a nice theocracy. What's a timocracy?
aristocracy.
What's a timocracy?
That's a good question. I think it's a combination of, it's one of those old like Plato things, you know, with a timocracy.
Yeah.
And I think it's a combination. Well, we'll have to look up. I don't want to say that anymore. I think it's a combination of what citizens, you know, like nice. Okay.
What is it?
Oh, there you go. Oh, I thought you knew it.
Okay. I
You
think
need to own property to do things in the government.
a timocracy. All right, fair enough.
So like a limited aristocracy. I
All right.
like it.
I wouldn't mind that a little bit, maybe. Homeowner. Not bragging. I'm a homeowner.
Taking my dad and friend from back home and brother-in-law to the Yankees game tonight.
You are?
Yeah, I'm excited. We got the front row seats from the boss over there. That's
Steinbrenner?
yeah, SNL.
Are you
Oh, really?
Yeah.
bringing
yeah.
a glove?
I might catch a foul ball behind the net.
Gloves.
Just- thankfully, last time
Don't be the dickhead that doesn't give it to a kid.
Last time I sat behind home plate, I was drinking a little, and then anytime a foul ball comes back, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
There's a net, but it's going 100 miles an hour
Jesus
right at you.
Christ.
And I was so drunk that it flew and hit, and like 10 seconds later, I was like, it was a very embarrassing moment.
One time I was drunk at it was the Yankee game. This is 100 years ago. This guy, Toby Harrow, was playing for the Rangers,
Yeah.
I think. And I kept saying, Toby, hey, did they think about giving you a boy's name? Toby? And so my whole section's laughing, right? They're like, ha, ha, ha. Toby, the game was a blowout, whatever it was. I forget who was winning. It's just some shitty game. And he starts lining it towards where we're sitting.
No.
And the whole crowd turned on me. He's like, you son of a bitch, if I hit with that ball, we're going to kill you. The wise ass.
That was
in
back
the-
before they had fucking nets up,
Yeah,
right?
I don't know that.
People
my
must have been
God.
getting, dude,
And he
people were
started-
getting hit with fucking
He lined
bats.
like 3 in a row, and people like when he's
Yeah.
up to bat. Like he went out of his way to just try to hit this
That's
loudmouth.
incredible.
Holy fuck.
By the way, those loudmouths are my least favorite thing.
Oh, the worst. We're
It
the worst.
bothers me so fucking.
The
and
worst.
They're timeless. These
Yes.
dudes that go to
Yeah,
baseball
yeah.
games are from the 60s.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're still making these dudes.
Dude, it's
Yeah.
before internet
These
comments.
white guys that go down and
Yeah.
sit on the third base line and are like,
And they have
Alec, just yelling at a guy
and they
at
have
third.
the projection of an opera singer.
They
Of
really
a trained
do.
singer.
You can see the player he can hear it.
Yeah.
He's getting insulted.
Yes.
They'll be like,
Yeah.
You can watch a guy shake it off.
Dude, girl's name would fuck
It's
me
fucking
up.
crazy. Girl's
It's
name would have
girl's
got me.
name is
Girl's
brutal.
name would have got me.
It's such a great mocking voice too.
Yeah.
I had a friend that was really good. I mean, I was a loudmouth, but I didn't go out that often. But my friend, he had the best voice.
And it's
Just
always that tone where it's
cut
like,
through it. He
it's
cut
just-
through everybody.
Yeah.
And it was just, people get so mad at
You see
him.
that Yankees Indians game?
No.
The fucking outfield jumped into the. I mean, they were up on the wall, like
I
trying
think it
to
was, yeah.
fight the fucking bleacher creatures.
Oh,
yeah.
that's so funny.
Well, it's so
Yeah.
funny to work your whole life and be like, I'm finally a pro, and there's just some dude, some mailman
fucking
waiting for
idiot,
you.
some drunk mailman.
Pussy.
Well, it's the same in comedy. Only the problem in comedy, which people don't talk about, is that sometimes usually the drunk is your fan.
Oh, always.
They came to see you.
And then you got
And
to
then
kick
they're
them
like,
out.
hey, and you got to kick them out.
I know, and it
Yeah.
hurts me.
That's the worst. But you know what? What are you going to do?
It makes me sad.
It's
Yeah.
pathetic.
When
but
somebody has
it
to
happened to me
leave.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it happens constantly.
And the guy's like, he's my favorite comic.
Yeah. I had a
Yeah.
guy in North Carolina. I had to kick him out. He was yelling the whole time. He's yelling shit from the podcast.
Yeah, and yeah.
Yes.
And you got to be like, all right, please, you got to head out. That was the 5th strike. He's ruined the entire show at this point.
Yeah.
Him and his girlfriend leave. He starts resisting in the doorway.
That's the
He's
best.
grabbing the door.
That's the best.
He's like,
yeah,
this
because
is
he's
gonna work.
realizing
Yeah.
this is my one thing I'm looking forward to all month.
Yeah. And then he goes outside to kick him out. I watch him sneak back in.
Yes.
And walk. He didn't like sneak through the back. He walked to the front of the stage to get back to his seat. And I was like, because the lights are on, you can't really see. I was like, there's no way this is that guy again. And
back
like,
in.
the whole crowd
You
was like,
should
it's
do-
him. And they had the security swarmed him again.
You should get his phone number and put him on a podcast.
He was good.
No, put him on and say, listen, I want to talk to you when you're sober. You can represent a whole new
Be
breakthrough.
like, how'd you feel about that?
You can break through a whole new thing. How much did it cost you? And how did you feel about coming to see your buddy, Shane, and trying to ruin my fucking show?
Yeah, but I don't want to. It'd be like naming a school shooter on the news.
True.
I don't know if I want to give him the publicity.
No, but you're not treating him nicely. You're saying, look, you're
Yeah.
representing all the assholes every comedian's dealt with.
Yeah, it's not a bad
Nah,
idea.
they helped the show.
They did.
They're always like, dude, I
What?
helped.
They were just laughing.
True.
Oh, we're not allowed to laugh. Yes.
They always say the same shit. Oh, in front of the comedy club, they're talking to me. I can't talk back. It's like, no, not like that.
Yeah, and I'm not talking to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm talking.
We
And
actually,
you're drunk, so you're like, he's talking to me.
did you ever have a guy leave by his own
He's
volition?
talking straight to me.
Did you ever have a guy
and the
leave
only
by his
time
own
we're talking
volition?
to you is to go, be quiet.
Yeah.
Then they
Not
think
a
that's
chance.
crowd work.
Not a
that way,
chance.
oh, hey, could
Yeah.
you be quiet? Oh, he's trying to talk to me.
Now we're
to
doing
shut
our
you
act.
up.
Now we're doing the act I dreamed about, where me and him become friends after the show.
Yes.
True.
Yeah, I think you should definitely get the guy
Get one of
because
those guys
it
on.
really is disturbing. Well, I don't know, but I mean, it could be the worst idea of all time. It probably is, but it's just disturbing because when you think about how many of these people are fans, because
Yeah.
people think of hecklers as people trying to ruin your show sometimes, but I'd say 80% of the time they're fans. They're
Yeah, that
drunk.
very rarely
For sure.
happens. Once you have fans, it rarely happens where somebody's heckling you to ruin the show.
No,
When
they're
you
usually
don't have
sitting
fans-
there, the people that hate you are sitting there quietly.
Yeah, when you don't
can
have
see 'em, you don't
fans,
even pay
it's an
attention.
entire room of people who hate you
Yeah.
because they don't know what you're going to say. And
Yeah.
they're up there saying wild shit. And there's somebody that's like, hey, asshole, shut the fuck up.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And people are like, yeah.
Yeah.
That's when you got to heckle it.
Yeah.
Or when they get you with a good one and the crowd laughs. You're
Yeah.
like, fuck, that
I always
was funny.
give it up. I always give it up. I'm like, damn,
Oh,
that's
for
good.
sure.
But I feel like when they get called out, they go like, all right, I'm gonna turn this around. They keep doubling down. They're like, I'm gonna do it. I'm finally like, you gotta
Yes.
get out. And they're like, no, I'm not gonna leave.
Dude, there was a guy in Brea this weekend, front row, and Brea's a huge room. It's like 500, 600
Yeah.
seats. He's in the front, and anytime the crowd was laughing or I had like a good joke, he would go, Shane. And he did it from the start. And I was like, bro, please stop. He kept fucking going. His buddy's sitting across from him like,
Stop.
dude, stop. And he would stop himself and then forget. And like 2 minutes later, be like, Shane.
It's so
It was fucking crazy.
it's so fucking infuriating.
Yeah.
I once had a woman that was she was trying to, like she was drunk. I could tell. She by herself. She was an old rocker
Should be
chick.
illegal.
I get some of those. And she was, but you could tell like she was just like, had been through the mill. And she's by herself. And she goes, every time I'd finish a joke before the laugh, I didn't realize there's a slight pause before people laugh after you finish a joke. I think they go right into laughter, but it's always a second and then they laugh. In that millisecond, she would go, yeah! And it threw the whole night off slightly, and nobody would know except me.
Yeah.
And it was like, I was trying to explain to her, but meanwhile, I was like, what are you busting her balls for?
Of course.
And she's even horrified. Like, she almost started crying. I'm like, all right, just... And it was just such a weird vibe.
Oh, man.
How about that girl in Philly with the laugh? Do you remember that? Were you there for that one? There's a girl in the front row that was like borderline, it sounded like sexual. And she was in the front, and it was like... Anytime, and she couldn't stop, because once I pointed it out, she couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah.
And it was like, this insane fucking thing.
What?
And you can't be like, hey,
Shut up.
I know,
It's
that's
like
the
you're
problem.
having
Your
the most
laugh
fun.
is unacceptable.
Yeah, why would you sit in the front? You knew you laughed like this.
Yeah.
You banished a man?
And bananas? We exercised him.
Banished in bananas.
We exercised him from the crowd. We just kept it going, and finally his bros left, and he was like, and he just walked away.
That's so
We got
funny.
him. He reached a fever pitch, and he just was like, and just walked
Bananas
away.
was the first place I ever kicked the table out.
That's good.
That was the first place. I never kicked people out.
Yeah,
that was the only
someone
place.
kicked like 10 tables out
It
of
was
my
just-
one show. There was like half the people.
One of the openers must have kicked him out.
Honestly, if I had my way, and I've said this for 30 years, I would not allow drinking in comedy clubs ever.
That'd be great.
But then you don't get paid as much.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Not.
That's the
Definitely
problem.
not. Just the food
No
has to
drinking.
go by the food. Just
No drinking alcohol. No.
What about a 2-drink maximum?
Well, maybe the
True.
problem is they're drunk before they get there, so
Yeah,
it
for
probably
sure.
wouldn't even work.
or
For
just
sure.
swallow like a tranquilizing pill just to loosen them up, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like a Klonopin.
Well,
Yeah.
now a lot of people are stoned the whole show, which also has a weird energy, you know?
People on mushrooms are weird heckle. They don't even try to heckle you. They'll just be like, "That's very good."
Yes. Yeah, and
That's
they're just
smart.
like laughing like, oh, like,
Yeah.
I'm like, why are you surprised you're at a comedy show, you know?
Or
They're
the
stoned.
people that are stoned are sitting there like looking at you like the whole show.
Yeah.
And then you get done and you're like, you guys hate that whole table hated me. And they're like, that was the best show I've ever
Yeah.
seen. You're like, holy shit, dude.
Yeah.
And that fucks you up. If you see one table just of dudes
Yeah.
that you know are fans
Just
because
like-
they're high and you're like, all right, that guy obviously likes me.
Mm.
He's wearing a fucking shirt or whatever.
Yeah.
And that the whole table's like, you're like, fuck, I'm not living up to what they thought.
By the way, we're not we left out one thing so my comedy now is Vietnam veteran comedians like Blake Clark. Do you know Blake Clark?
No.
is?
What?
He was in a bunch of Sandler movies, and he did stand up in 80s and 90s, and he was on the Tonight Show as a Vietnam. He was a lieutenant in Vietnam, and he was like, in it like a heavily.
Wow.
I think he was a heavily decorated guy. I think he was like a real war hero, and he was a stand-up, like a legitimate stand-up for years, from Georgia. And his opening joke used to be, I was in. I grew up in Georgia. I joined the army. I was in Vietnam, and he goes, and I still have flashbacks of Georgia. Because I'm the only one that had flashbacks in Vietnam.
Yeah, I wonder how many vets were comedians. How many other guys?
And there used to be a guy, Frankie Bastille, who claimed he was a Vietnam vet, and the way he behaved, you believe him. Rich Voss knows him very well too, and I only say that because I knew him. I worked with him a few times. But I know if Rich Voss hears this, he'll be like, I was close with it. It's like, all right, you were closer with him than I was.
Man,
Voss.
Voss. I miss Voss.
so
I don't see him
funny, yeah.
anymore.
No, you don't?
No, I used to see. He was the first guy to take me on the road.
He's the
I
greatest.
He's the funniest fucking guy.
Funniest
already.
guy in the world.
He is actually might be one of the funniest
One of the
fucking
funniest.
people of all time.
Absolutely.
Everything he does.
I love Voss.
I just like seeing him now. He's nice to me, which is very funny.
Yeah.
'Cause he always, he
was
was always very nice.
He was
to
always
me.
a ball buster.
But
right.
like, I remember right when I got SNL, he was like, not joking. He came up and was like, I've always been good to you, right? I was like, holy shit.
But that's what I love about him. He didn't try to hide it.
No.
Now some people might say he's too dumb to hide it, but it's more than that. You know what? It is that. But
When you've been
yeah.
watching it, he posts. Do you
Oh,
have Instagram? He posts landscaping videos.
no shit. I watch them all the time. They're the worst.
Landscaping with Rick.
They stink.
They stink. They're so
Dude,
funny.
him on Digital Graffiti was unbelievable.
So we had this show.
That was
where
Physical graffiti?
it was called Digital Graffiti.
Oh.
We had a show where
See how old I am? I go physical
Yeah.
graffiti.
There was
I wait
a
for
Zeppelin.
there was a screen behind the comedian,
Yeah.
and there was a group text of other comedians on the screen making fun of the comedian, and they couldn't see it. the comedian on stage.
Yeah, what we were saying, the chat was coming up
Trashing
behind a
your
comedian
friend,
as they try to perform, and the
so
audience
a silent roast, basically,
Right,
where the
right.
audience can see it
Silent.
and they're laughing.
Oh my
And
and
you're
the
trying to do
comedian has no
material.
idea what everyone's laughing at.
you can't turn around and look.
And we would do it to open micers and ourselves. And the only good comedian we ever did it to was Voss. I asked him to host
he didn't know
the show.
he didn't know what was going
He
on.
didn't know what the fucking show was.
He still doesn't know.
I didn't know. No, he holds it against us to this day. He was so fucking mad.
But usually, dude, I would do like 3 minutes, and you just can't take it.
It's the worst feeling in the
Your
world.
people are laughing at you. Were saying it
Oh,
before.
of course, it's
people
the
are
worst.
laughing at you, and you don't know what they're laughing at, so you invent what they're laughing at.
You
You're like,
think it's the
"Fuck."
worst, most insecure thing you can think of.
And he did fucking
But
like 12
Voss,
minutes
Voss
nonstop.
just eviscerated us.
Oh,
The
it's
guy's
crazy.
texting.
Yeah.
He would like lean forward and look at the screen for a second and be like, oh, real fucking funny. Like he was just.
It's like, I did more. I
He was
spent
the
more
only
on my
guy on
teeth
earth.
than these guys made all year.
Yeah.
I was like, damn,
Boy, yeah.
you rule.
Boy says, believe me, even when we used to do Opie and Anthony, people be trashing boys.
There's compilations of you versus Voss on
Yeah,
YouTube,
yeah.
and they're some of my favorite things in the world to fucking listen to.
Because Voss, you'll be attacking him, and it's almost like people almost feel bad. Everyone's ganging up on him, and then he slowly
He
starts
swinging
counterpunching,
back.
and he just starts going after everybody's jugular, and it's so funny. And his spirit is like, "You take me down, you fucking not without a fight," and it's so great.
He's the only one who made it through. He was the only person to stand that
Yeah.
and go through it. It was unbelievable.
Yeah,
to
of
see.
course.
Well, that's because he was doing fucking. He's used to that.
True.
That's nothing to him.
Nothing.
That was crazy.
But yeah, I would look
It's
at
very
all the
mean stuff,
Vietnam
though.
comedians. That would be kind of interesting, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, but this guy Frankie Bastille, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
So Frankie Bastille, he was said he's a Vietnam vet. I'm pretty sure he was, but he had a black heart tattoo over his heart. And he was like he was like a Jersey Bill Hicks. Like he would just go up and be like, "Man, let me tell you people something." And the only reason I think he was a Vietnam vet because one time I went on and bombed, and he goes on after me. He's the headliner. It was some one nighter, and he goes, "Do you think I fought in Vietnam so you dumb fucks could not like this guy? You fucking asshole." And he just like
Oh, wow.
eviscerated the guy. I know, I loved him for it. But I mean,
Damn. Truly a hero.
yeah, he was great. And I thought we almost, and we did a couple of gigs together. But he was one of those guys that, just seemed like a Vietnam guy, And he did say it on stage, so I'm assuming he was.
He
Damn.
was a school bus driver that was a Vietnam guy.
Really?
And he was fired. He would get fucking fired.
That's a good
He'd
bus
start
driver,
Screaming
yeah.
at people.
That's a good bus driver.
Yeah. That is a good bus driver. Guy who's seen some things.
For sure.
All right, we should wrap this
Yeah,
up.
let's do it.
All right, guys.
Hey,
Dude, thanks for doing this.
thank you very
Sure.
much for coming and
Appreciate
doing this.
No, pleasure.
This was awesome.
Great.
Yeah.
Hell
All
yeah.
right.
Adios.
It's funny. This is like a fucking ISIS video.
It is.
Death to a man. You've heard us talk about how important it is to have VPN to protect your online privacy. We've talked about it. But choosing a VPN you trust is equally as important. ExpressVPN is the best VPN on the market. Here's why. A lot of you are wondering why. Why the fuck is ExpressVPN so great? Number one, shithead. ExpressVPN doesn't log your activity. Other VPNs make money by selling your data to advertisers, not ExpressVPN. All right. Number two, speed. Other VPNs can slow your connection, but ExpressVPN is always blazing fast. Stream videos in HD quality with zero buffering. Don't you fucking hate buffering?
Yeah.
Makes me sick. Finally, ExpressVPN is easy to use. Only a fucking moron wouldn't be able to do it. Just fire up the app and tap one button to connect. That's why Business Insider, The Verge, we've all heard of The Verge, and many other tech journals rate ExpressVPN the number one VPN in the world. I love how easy ExpressVPN is to use on my phone when I'm looking at stuff you're not supposed to look at. So protect yourself with the VPN I use and trust. Use our link, expressvpn.com/drenched, to get an extra 3 months free on a 1-year package. That's ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN.com/drenched to learn more. Matt and Shane's Secret Podcast is brought to you by Displate. Want one of your very own sexy lady posters for your house? You want that in your house? Displate has a one-of-a-kind metal poster. It only takes 20 seconds to install. Your poster comes with a magnetic sticker. Just pop it on the wall and hang your poster. No power tools, no damage. You can easily switch it out for a new poster. They have millions of designs available and officially licensed designs from Star Wars, Netflix, and more. Wouldn't it be nice to get some Star Wars hanging? That'd be great. Get that and some fucking Wookiee posters. Let let everybody know you get pussy. Click the link in our description and save up to 34%. The discount is automatically applied to your cart when you use our link, or use code DRENCHED when you visit displate.com. This amazing deal is only available for a limited time. That's displate.com, code DRENCHED, or click the link. I don't know where the fuck the link they're talking about is. And support the show, get up to 34% off some sweet metal art with the code DRENCHED. Thank you. Bye.